Prince William woke up early that morning feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. The whole country was preparing for a big event, the coronation of his father, King Charles III. This wasn't just any day. It was a day filled with history, tradition, and great importance for the royal family and the people of the United Kingdom. William knew that many eyes would be watching him, his father and his whole family, as the ceremony took place. But deep inside, William felt something more personal: pressure, not just because he was the son of the new king, but because he was slowly stepping into his own future as a leader and a symbol for millions. As he got ready, William's thoughts drifted to his mother, Princess Diana. She had been the people's princess, loved by so many around the world for her kindness, her warmth, and her ability to connect with ordinary people. Even though she was no longer alive, her presence still felt very close. William remembered the lessons she had taught him as a child. She wanted him to be a prince who cared deeply for people, someone who could be both royal and real. She didn't want him to be just a distant figure behind grand palaces and fancy ceremonies. She wanted him to be different, to bring kindness, honesty, and hope to the royal family. William smiled softly as he thought about his mother. He could almost hear her voice, reminding him to stay true to himself. But he also felt the heavy weight of the royal legacy. The crown his father would wear was not just a shiny object. It was a symbol of hundreds of years of history, responsibility, and sometimes difficult choices. William had grown up watching his grandfather, Prince Philip, and now his father, prepare for moments like this. But now it was his turn to stand tall beside them, to support his father, and to think about what his own future might look like. In the room next door, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, was getting ready as well. She understood exactly what William was feeling because she felt it too. Since the day they met, Catherine had grown from a shy young woman into a confident royal figure. She had learned to handle the spotlight, the cameras, and the constant attention with grace. But it wasn't always easy. Catherine had faced her own challenges in the royal family, from early public scrutiny to private worries about how she and William would manage their roles while raising their children. She took a deep breath and looked in the mirror, adjusting her outfit carefully. Her heart was filled with pride, but also a little nervousness. This coronation was not only about the king, it was also about the future of their family. The eyes of the world would be on them. Her 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and little Prince Louis, were growing up fast, and she wanted them to feel safe, loved, and proud of their family's heritage. As Catherine thought about the day ahead, she quietly walked over to William's room. She could see that he was still lost in thought, staring out the window at the early morning sky. She gently placed her hand on his shoulder. William turned and gave her a small smile. They didn't need many words. Their connection was strong, built on years of shared experiences, love, and understanding. Outside the palace walls, the streets were slowly filling with people. Flags waved in the breeze, and there was a sense of joy mixed with respect. The whole nation was celebrating a new chapter in their history. But William and Catherine knew that behind the public smiles, there were many emotions: hope, anxiety, and a deep sense of duty. The couple joined other members of the royal family for a rehearsal. The grandeur of Westminster Abbey, with its tall ceilings and ancient stones, reminded William of how much tradition mattered. Every step, every gesture was carefully planned. It was important to honor the past, but William also wanted to bring a fresh and genuine spirit to the ceremony. He wanted people to see that the royal family was alive, growing, and connected to today's world. During a quiet moment, William found himself thinking about the challenges ahead. The world was changing quickly, and the royal family had to change with it. There were many expectations and sometimes criticism, but William believed that kindness and openness were the best way forward. He remembered how his mother had used her position to help others, visiting hospitals, listening to people in need, and raising awareness for causes she cared about. William wanted to do the same. He wanted to be a prince who could make a real difference. Catherine sat nearby watching him. She admired his determination and felt proud of the man he was becoming. She also knew that it wasn't just about public service. It was about being a good husband, a loving father, and a person who stayed true to his heart. As the day went on, William and Catherine attended several small ceremonies and meetings with important leaders and officials. They smiled and greeted guests warmly, but William's mind kept returning to his family. How would his children see this day when they grew older? Would they understand the meaning behind the crowns and ceremonies? William hoped they would see the love and commitment behind the royal traditions, not just the pomp and pageantry. Later, during a quiet moment alone, William took out a small photo of Diana, his mother. He held it gently and whispered a quiet promise to her. He promised to protect his family, to serve his country with honor, and to keep her memory alive through his actions. It was a private moment filled with emotion, a reminder that even though she was gone, her spirit was always with him. As the sun began to set, the palace prepared for the big day ahead. William and Catherine shared a quiet dinner with their children, trying to keep things as normal as possible. They wanted their kids to feel safe and loved, despite the huge event happening in their lives. William looked at George, Charlotte, and Louis, who were laughing and playing around the table. He felt a rush of hope for the future. The coronation was more than just a ceremony. It was a symbol of continuity, family, and love. It was a moment where the past and future met, and where William and Catherine could shape a new royal story, one that honored their mother's legacy while embracing the possibilities ahead. That night, as William and Catherine said goodnight to their children, they both felt a quiet excitement mixed with calm. The next day would be filled with history, ceremony, and public moments. But in that moment, all that mattered was family, the love that connected them and the magic they created together, far beyond the crown. William knew that no matter what happened during the coronation, he and Catherine would face it side by side. And that gave him strength. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, woke up early on the morning of the coronation, her mind full of many thoughts and feelings. She knew this day was very important, not just for the royal family, but for the whole country. But for her, it was also a day full of deep emotions and quiet strength. Over the years, Catherine had learned that being part of the royal family was about much more than fancy dresses and public appearances. It was about heart, patience, and the courage to keep going even when things were hard. Catherine thought back to the early days when she first joined the royal family. She was a young woman from a normal background, suddenly thrown into a world where every move was watched by millions. At first, it was difficult. The cameras, the rumors, the endless expectations. It could be overwhelming. She remembered how many nights she cried quietly, feeling lonely and unsure. People often judged her before they really knew her. But Catherine had a quiet strength inside her. She kept working on herself, learning how to be a good partner to William, a caring mother to their children, and a royal who could stand tall with grace. One of the things that helped Catherine most was her family. William was always there, understanding her feelings even when words were hard to find. Together, they built a life filled with love and trust. She knew the royal world could be harsh, but with William's support, she felt stronger every day. She had learned how important it was to be calm and steady, especially on days like this when the world was watching. As she got ready for the day, Catherine thought about their children, George, Charlotte, and little Louis. They were still young, but they already understood that their family's life was different from most children's. Catherine wanted to protect their innocence and happiness as much as she could. She hoped that as they grew, they would learn to be proud of their heritage, without feeling trapped by it. She wanted them to grow up knowing that behind the titles and ceremonies, there was love, kindness, and a real family. The princess had carefully chosen her outfit for the coronation day. It was beautiful and elegant, but she also wanted it to reflect something important: her connection to history and her hopes for the future. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she thought about the women who had worn the crown before her, queens and princesses who had faced challenges with courage and grace. Catherine wanted to add her own story to this long history, one filled with hope and care. Before leaving the palace, Catherine sat quietly for a moment, thinking about William. She knew he was carrying his own heavy feelings about the coronation. She remembered the private moments they shared the night before, when William had opened up about his fears and hopes. Catherine had listened carefully and held him close. They didn't need grand speeches or promises, just the comfort of knowing they were in this together. The day moved quickly. Catherine attended several meetings and rehearsals with other members of the royal family. She was calm and composed, but her mind was often with her children and William. Despite the grand ceremonies and important conversations, she remained focused on the little things: the smiles from children in the crowd, the kind words of supporters, the brief moments of quiet between the events. During one of these quiet moments, Catherine was approached by a staff member who reminded her of the importance of the day. She nodded politely, but her thoughts drifted again to the children waiting for her at home. How would George and Charlotte remember this day when they grew older? Would they feel proud? Would they understand the meaning behind all the pomp and ceremony? Catherine hoped so. She wanted them to know that being part of the royal family was about serving others with kindness and humility. Later in the afternoon, Catherine found herself alone for a short time. She walked through a quiet garden in the palace grounds, breathing in the fresh air and trying to calm her racing heart. She thought about the future of her family, of the monarchy, and of the country. She wondered how her children would grow up in a world that was changing so fast. Would they be able to live their lives with freedom and happiness, even as they carried the weight of history on their shoulders? Catherine knew that this was not just about traditions and ceremonies. It was about people, ordinary people who looked to the royal family for hope, comfort, and connection. She thought about the charities and causes she cared deeply about, from mental health to children's welfare. She wanted to use her role to make a real difference, just as her mother-in-law, Princess Diana, had done before her. William joined her in the garden after a few minutes. He looked tired but calm. They stood together quietly, sharing a moment, away from the cameras and the crowds. William reached out and took her hand. The simple touch spoke volumes. In that moment, neither of them needed to say anything. They both understood the weight of the day and the journey ahead. As the afternoon turned into evening, Catherine helped get the children ready for bed. She wanted them to feel calm and safe, even though they knew something important was happening. She told them stories and answered their questions with gentle honesty. George was curious about the crown and the ceremony, while Charlotte was more interested in the dresses and music. Louis was too young to understand everything, but he loved the excitement in the air. After tucking the children into bed, Catherine sat down for a moment to rest. She felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Pride in how far she had come, and sadness for the challenges she knew still lay ahead. The royal family had their share of hardships, and Catherine was ready to face them. But she also knew that with love, patience, and courage, they could overcome anything. That night, William and Catherine talked quietly about their hopes for the future. William shared his worries about living up to the expectations placed on him. Catherine reassured him with gentle words and promises to stand by his side no matter what. They dreamed about the kind of family they wanted to be, one full of love, laughter, and support. Though the coronation day was almost here, Catherine's focus remained on what mattered most: family. She was determined to be a source of strength, not just for William but for their children as well. She wanted to help them grow up knowing they were loved and supported, no matter what challenges came their way. As the evening drew to a close, Catherine took one last look in the mirror. She saw a woman who had grown from a shy girl into a strong, confident princess. But more importantly, she saw a mother and wife ready to face the future with open heart and steady hands. The magic of the coronation wasn't just in the crowns or the ceremonies, it was in the quiet strength of those who carried it. Tomorrow would be a day for history. But tonight was a night for family, for love, and for the promise of new beginnings. The night before the coronation was unlike any other night William had ever experienced. It was filled with quiet thoughts, emotions, and moments of deep reflection. After a long day of rehearsals, meetings, and public appearances, the palace finally began to calm down. Outside, the streets were silent, but inside, William's mind was far from quiet. He found himself unable to sleep. The weight of the upcoming day pressed heavily on him. The coronation was not just a formal ceremony, it was a turning point in his life. His father, King Charles III, would be crowned, and William would be there beside him, taking his place as the future king. But as the night grew deeper, William felt a flood of memories come rushing back. Memories of his mother, Princess Diana. William quietly slipped out of his room and made his way to Westminster Abbey, where the ceremony would take place the next day. The vast ancient building stood silent and grand in the moonlight. Walking through the empty halls, William felt a strange calm, mixed with sadness and hope. He paused in the quiet space, imagining his mother's presence there with him. He thought about how she had always wanted him to be a prince who cared for people, who was kind and brave. Standing alone in the abbey, William spoke softly, almost as if sharing a secret with the shadows. He told his mother how much he missed her, how he hoped he could make her proud. His voice was barely a whisper, but the words came straight from his heart. It was a moment of connection, between past and present, between loss and love. Back at the palace, Catherine was busy with a very different but equally important task. She was focused on their children, making sure they felt safe and happy despite the excitement in the air. She knew that the next day would be full of loud noises, flashing cameras, and lots of strangers. That could be scary for young children, so Catherine worked hard to create a calm, warm atmosphere at home. She told George, Charlotte, and Louis stories about the coronation in a way they could understand. She explained that it was a very special day for their family and for the country, but she also reassured them that they were loved and protected no matter what. The children listened with wide eyes, fascinated by the idea of crowns, kings, and queens. Charlotte was curious about the beautiful dresses, while George wanted to know more about his grandfather, the new king. After story time, Catherine gently helped each child get ready for bed. She sang soft lullabies, kissed their foreheads, and made sure each one felt safe and loved. She understood the importance of these small moments. For children growing up in the royal family, it was easy to feel overwhelmed by the attention and expectations. But Catherine wanted her children to know that home was a place of comfort and love. Later that night, Catherine found William still, awake. He was sitting quietly in a room near the crown jewels, the golden crowns and other royal treasures sparkling under soft lights. William stared at the crown that would soon rest on his father's head, a symbol of power, duty, and history. It was beautiful, but also heavy with meaning. William shared his thoughts with Catherine. He spoke about the pressure he felt, the fear of not being good enough. He wondered if he could live up to the example of his mother and grandmother, both strong women who had shaped the royal family in their own ways. Catherine listened carefully, offering comfort not with grand words but with simple understanding. She reminded him that he was not alone, and that they would face the future together. Their conversation was a moment of true closeness. Away from the public eye, away from expectations, they could be just two people sharing hopes and fears. Catherine's presence gave William strength. He felt ready to face the day ahead, knowing he had her support. As the night deepened, the Wab palace grew quiet. The rest of the family was asleep. The staff had finished their work, and the great halls were filled only with soft shadows. But for William and Catherine, the night was full of meaning. It was a night of memory, love, and quiet courage. They both knew the next day would bring ceremonies and celebrations, crowds and cameras. But for now, they held on to this peaceful moment, knowing that the true magic of the coronation was not in the jewels or the ceremony, but in the love and strength of their family. The morning of the coronation dawned bright and clear, filled with a golden sunlight that seemed to bless the day with warmth and hope. The city of London was alive with excitement. Crowds gathered early along the streets, waving flags and smiling. With eager anticipation, the air buzzed with a mix of joy, pride, and reverence. It was a moment that everyone felt deeply, a moment when history would be made. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was both busy and calm. William and Catherine moved, with a quiet purpose, preparing themselves for a day that was both public and deeply personal. Though the coronation was a grand event watched by millions worldwide, for them it was also a day of family, legacy, and honor. William felt the weight of the moment settle around him as he dressed in his royal uniform. The medals and decorations he pinned to his chest told stories of duty and service. But more than the physical symbols, he carried the invisible weight of expectations. As the future king, his role was not just to stand beside his father, but to represent hope for a new generation. Catherine, meanwhile, chose her dress carefully, knowing that every detail would be noticed and remembered. Her outfit was elegant, simple yet striking, designed to show respect for tradition, while also reflecting her own style and personality. She wanted to honor the past but also show that the royal family was alive and connected to the present. As they made their way to Westminster Abbey, the streets outside were lined with thousands of people. Families, tourists, and local citizens had come from all corners of the country and even the world. They wanted to witness history, to be part of a moment that would be talked about for generations. William and Catherine felt the warmth and energy of the crowd. Their cheers and smiles reminded them why this day was so important. The procession to the abbey was slow and grand. Horses with shining coats and riders in ornate uniforms led the way, followed by members of the royal family in elegant carriages. William and Catherine sat side by side, waving gently to the crowds. Their children watched from the palace windows, waving back and feeling proud. Inside the abbey, the atmosphere was solemn yet full of hope. The ancient walls, decorated with centuries of royal history, held the echoes of past kings and queens. The music filled the air, adding to the sense of awe and reverence. William and Catherine took their seats, ready to support the king in this moment of great significance. King Charles III entered the abbey with a steady, dignified step. The crowd rose in respect and applause. He looked calm but focused, aware of the responsibility he was about to take on. William watched his father carefully, feeling a deep pride. This was his father's moment, but also a moment that connected their family's past to its future. The ceremony itself was filled with tradition and symbolism. The anointing with holy oil, the presentation of the crown, the oaths taken, all were reminders of the sacred duty of monarchy. William paid close attention, understanding the meaning behind every gesture and word. This was more than ceremony. It was a promise to serve the people with honor and humility. Throughout the event, Catherine remained a steady presence beside William. She understood how much this day meant to him and to their family. Her calm and graceful support helped him stay focused and strong. They exchanged small smiles and glances, sharing silent encouragement. The crowning moment was the climax of the ceremony. The great crown, heavy with jewels and history, was carefully placed on King Charles's head. The sound of the crown settling echoed through the abbey, followed by a swell of music and applause. William felt a mixture of emotions, pride, joy, and a little sadness. He thought again of his mother, Diana, wishing she could have been there to see this day. After the ceremony, the celebrations continued outside. The streets were filled with music, laughter, and cheers. William and Catherine joined the festivities, greeting well-wishers and sharing in the joy of the nation. Their children were brought outside to see the crowds and the excitement, and the family stood together, united and strong. As the day wore on, William took a quiet moment alone. He walked through a garden in the palace grounds, thinking about the journey that had brought him here. From childhood memories to the lessons learned from his parents, he felt ready to face the future. The coronation was not just a ceremony, but a beginning, a chance to shape a new chapter for the royal family and the country. Catherine joined him, and together they looked out over the gardens, imagining the years ahead. They talked about their hopes for their children and the kind of legacy they wanted to build. It was a moment of partnership and shared dreams, filled with love and determination. The evening brought a grand banquet attended by important leaders and dignitaries. The palace halls were decorated with flowers and sparkling lights. William and Catherine moved through the crowd with grace, their smiles genuine and warm. They knew that their role was not just to be symbols, but to build bridges, inspire hope, and serve with humility. As the banquet ended, William and Catherine returned to their private family space. The day had been long and full of emotion, but also filled with pride and love. They sat together quietly, reflecting on the meaning of the coronation. It was a reminder that beneath the crowns and ceremonies, what mattered most was family, kindness, and the courage to carry on. That night, William and Catherine held each other close, feeling the strength of their bond and the promise of the future. The coronation had been a magical day, one that connected history with the present and opened the door to new possibilities. Together they were ready to face whatever came next, guided by love, honor, and the deep magic of family. The days following the coronation were filled with a mix of celebration, reflection, and a deep sense of responsibility for William and Catherine. The entire nation, and indeed the world, had witnessed a historic moment, but for the royal family, the real journey had only just begun. The coronation was a powerful symbol of continuity and change, a new chapter that called for courage, wisdom, and kindness. William and Catherine returned home after the grand events, greeted warmly by their children. George, Charlotte, and Louis had watched much of the day unfold from their palace windows, their young minds filled with wonder and curiosity. Now, reunited as a family, there was a calmness and closeness that reassured them all. The children were excited to hear stories about the day and to feel the love that surrounded their family. For William and Catherine, the coronation was not simply about titles or ceremonies. It was about the promises they made to themselves, to each other, and to the people they served. William, as the future king, knew he carried a heavy responsibility to lead with honor, to protect traditions while embracing the future, and to always remember the importance of compassion. Catherine stood beside him, offering strength and encouragement. She understood that the role of a royal was not just about appearances, but about genuine care. Her work with charities, her dedication to causes like mental health and children's welfare, showed the world that the royal family could be a source of hope and help. As the days went by, William and Catherine visited communities across the country. They met people from all walks of life: farmers, teachers, nurses, artists, and young students. Each meeting reminded them why the monarchy existed: to serve the people, to be a symbol of unity and support. William listened carefully to the hopes and concerns of those he met. He wanted to be a king who understood the lives of ordinary people. Catherine, with her warm smile and genuine interest, connected especially well with families and children. She talked about her own experiences as a mother, sharing stories that made people feel closer to the royal family. Her natural kindness and openness helped bridge the gap between the palace and everyday life. One afternoon, William and Catherine, visited a school in a small town. The children were excited and a little nervous to meet them. William spoke about the importance of education and kindness, encouraging the students to follow their dreams. Catherine joined in, telling stories about her own childhood and the joys and challenges of growing up. The visit was filled with laughter, questions, and moments of genuine connection. The royal couple also took time to honor the memory of Princess Diana. William often thought about his mother and the lessons she had taught him. He wanted to continue her legacy of compassion and service. At a memorial garden dedicated to Diana, William and Catherine laid flowers and spent a quiet moment reflecting on her impact. The memory of Diana was a guiding light for William. He believed that being a good king meant being a good listener, someone who cared deeply about people's feelings and struggles. Catherine shared this vision, and together they worked to make the royal family more open and accessible. Behind the scenes, William and Catherine supported each other through the challenges of royal life. The public eye was never far away, and sometimes the pressure was intense. But their partnership was strong. They shared the highs and lows, always returning to the foundation of their love and respect for each other. They also focused on raising their children with a sense of normalcy and humility. Even though George, Charlotte, and Louis were part of the royal family, William and Catherine wanted them to experience childhood as fully as possible. They encouraged curiosity, kindness, and a love of learning. The couple believed that a strong family life was the key to happiness and resilience. The public admired the couple's dedication. William and Catherine were seen not only as royal figures but as relatable, caring individuals. Their commitment to service and family inspired many. They showed that true leadership was about heart as much as duty. As the months passed, William and Catherine took on more responsibilities. They attended official events, supported charitable causes, and worked with the government on important issues. William prepared for his future role as king by learning from his father and other experienced leaders. Catherine continued to use her influence to raise awareness about mental health and children's issues. Despite their busy schedules, William and Catherine always made time for their family. Weekends were often spent quietly, away from the public eye. They enjoyed simple pleasures, walking in the gardens, reading stories to their children, and sharing meals. These moments kept them grounded and connected. The coronation had been a magical day, but the real magic, William and Catherine knew, was in the everyday acts of kindness and courage. It was in the small decisions to listen, to care, and to serve. It was in the laughter of their children and the warmth of their home. Looking ahead, William and Catherine felt hopeful. They understood that being part of the royal family was a lifelong journey. It was filled with challenges and joys, tradition and change. But with love, patience, and dedication, they were ready to face the future. The story of their coronation was not just about crowns and ceremonies. It was about people, about family, service, and the power of kindness. William and Catherine's journey showed that true leadership came from the heart, and that the most important legacy was the love they shared and the difference they made in the lives of others. As they watched their children grow, William and Catherine dreamed of a future where their family could continue to inspire and bring hope. They knew the road ahead would not always be easy, but they were ready to walk it together, hand in hand, with courage and grace. The magic of the coronation was real, but it was only the beginning. The true story was one of love, family, and the promise to serve, a story that would continue to unfold with each new day.